collection is, it includes things like basically anything that is going to be hard to replace or is valuable according to different measurements. So like cultural value can be like sort of like monetary value of like things that were collected by the university over time, or research value. So it really covers a broad range of things, but then also like the primary source materials as we were talking about before. So we have things that range from like cuneiform tablets, clay tablets from Mesopotamia from about 4,000 years ago, and like some papyrus fragments. So like, and like early books, both like manuscripts, so like medieval manuscripts, but also printed books beginning from the 1450s when it begins with the Gutenberg Bible in the West, up through comics. We have a big comic collection because anything that's like brittle or that's going to be handled a lot and might fall apart, so those are also parts of our collection.
We have fragments, and we have scrolls. We have artist book scrolls and also much older scrolls.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we teach quite a bit up here, with mostly with undergrads, but increasingly also with like high schools and middle schools in the area, and also graduate classes. So it's all over the place. But within that, like one of the main topics that we cover is like the history of the book and the history of printing and history of communication. And you have English classes coming up.
Oh yeah, lots and lots of English classes. We have a lot of conversations about where the books come from, their who owned them and who they were passed down to, and so forth. We do tracking the history of the types of books, so looking at timelines and such, thinking about the author, the authorship, the audience, audiences. All of those things for English classes, that's a lot of the focus for those. For history classes, a lot of it is, I think, focused on like tracking where the text went, who it passed down to, and what it was used for, perhaps.
We have digital objects as well. We have the whole digital library that captures a lot of what we have, because everything is kept in closed vault spaces, mostly because it allows us to keep things in the dark so they aren't getting damaged by the light, any of the pigments, and also then it can be temperature and humidity controlled, so that helps everything persist, particularly with anything on paper. Instruction is a huge help because we can have a whole lot of items out and students are interacting with them and getting a sense of like what types of materials are in the collection.
And we always welcome walk-ins. If you're interested to find something that interests you, or for a class, or just you wandered over here, then we're always happy to help you find something. We set up a research session, and I believe that's 15 minutes with one of us kind of going over the text that you're interested in looking at, and then you can spend as long as you want until we close.
So that's also like a newer thing that we're offering is like making the scheduling through MU Connect. And making appointments through there so that it's easier to get in touch with us as well. If someone comes in, then we'll identify the object and make a call slip for it, and then whoever is working at the desk or another librarian will then go retrieve it and bring it to the reading room where then anybody can use it. Yeah, so we have the reading room, and then we also have the classroom, which is down at the other end of the hallway. And that's a new addition as of the summer. Now we can sort of have designated spaces for both types of activities and types of like noise levels, so that everybody can sort of have the space that they need for what they need to do. For instance, one of our cuneiform tablets, we have a modern copy of it, so we don't handle the cuneiform that's in the box, but this one then we can. So it's a way of sort of interacting with the object and having the sight one, trying to break that barrier of not being able to handle that particular item, but just being able to see it. If you're doing research on something that's been printed, this will walk you through all the different print methods that may have been used, and so it's going to show you sort of things to look for, features of particular processes or materials, and so that's like sort of going to be a guide for how do if I'm looking at, say, like an engraved image, how do I find out maybe like when this would have been done based on sort of the type of technique that was used, or if it was like a wood engraving or a metal engraving or a relief print or intaglio. So all of those things are going to be something that then we could use this resource for specifically. almost all of our books are organized by Library of Congress call numbers, so just like out in the main stacks. So we would say, like, look for something in rare or in closed or in vault, and then you can have the call number, and that's what comes up when you look at the catalog online as well. You got Milton in this case, John Milton, and this is going to be a large book of his poetical works. You have engraved images, you have everything that was handset type. So each letter was an individual piece of metal type that then someone would have put all together and locked up in a form and then printed. Yeah, so it's, you can see like the images offset over on the other side.
What year was this book made?
So this one was in 1794. Back into, this one is 1620, I believe. It's going to be a copy of Don Quixote. And then a later binding then. So many times also like books would have been printed in sheets and then not bound yet, so then whoever owned them would have them bound. So you'll see things like this, which is definitely like a library binding. And you'll see books like this out in the stacks. And it's possible at one time this wasn't the stacks. Many of our books would have been circulating a while ago, but it's a 1706 imprint, so then it would have come to us just again because of its rarity and age. So this is, in this particular case, this is a book of Locke, John Locke, and so it's essay concerning human understanding. So we got Locke, we have Hobbes, Descartes. So this is a French imprint of René Descartes. L'Homme. It's going to be 1664. And this one was published.
Are there other instances where like special collections like rebinds books because they're like damaged?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a preservation specialist in the library, and so her name's Michelle, and she does amazing work with us. As far as rebinding goes, we often will work with a conservator who lives in Columbia, Missouri, named Jim Downey, and so we have a program called Adopt a Book where like, donors can adopt a book and pay for its rebinding. We also have our own internal fund to help this, so we'll identify something, send a batch of them off with him, usually about like 10 books or so, and then maybe every 4 months, and he'll work on them and then send us an invoice, and we'll get the books back, and then they're going to be much better for handling it. So like these are all original bindings. You can tell just by the materials, so it's all leather. You've got these little Allen Todd cords that are running through that were sewn on, but you can also see it's cracking. So this would be something that we would maybe want to get repaired at some point. Like this one would have been done in the library or through the library where it's made out of buckram. So this is like pretty indestructible material. It's definitely not contemporary to the work, but it protects it, and it also it's a way of documenting the history of this item as far as how it functioned within the library and how it was treated, and you'll also see things like this where like we still have, you can see tape that's on the top of this page, and so that's something that is, you can see it sort of burned the page just a little bit. It's left a mark. Those are some things that we might consider going in and having removed by our conservator or by Michelle downstairs. But you can definitely see little repairs in here as well, where it looks like this page came out at some point, and so they've reinforced it. And this one is it's Purcell. So this is a book of music, of English music, and it's a little bit different from the type, how it's all laid out. But yeah, so we have music, we've got some handle here. So you have the music on there that's set sort of like type where it's all individual pieces, and then this is where it's engraved like an image. So they would have sort of designed the whole page and then printed off of a metal plate. You can see those edges. Yeah, I mean,
Part of our teaching instruction are some of the things we have up here. So, for example, with the typeset, we have little models that explain what you see on the page, how it's made. So part of the printing press, and so you can see some of the little things we have in here. Let's see, here we go. So you have a little letter here. This is a B. I'm gonna have that upside down.
And so you would,
And you have another plastic model of that.
and then after, so this is what it looks like after it's cast, and then you'd cut off the jet, what we call the jet, on the back.
Yep.
And we also have examples of materials, so we have things like papyrus, examples of papyrus, for people to handle, and because the papyrus that we have in the collection, the fragments are going to be really fragile, so sort of like the clay tablet where you have a tangible object, and then the one that is not. This is a beautiful goat skin parchment here, as an example again of just what sorts of materials these are coming from, and being able to explain how like a page is coming out of one large set of page layout is going to be from one skin, and sort of how book sizes are then determined by the size of the animal.
So like for this piece here, the quarto or chapbook, and sort of show like how it would have been printed and how it's all one single piece. And then the instead of cutting it into individual pages, it would just be folded until it becomes a book. And so that's how this would have worked. It would have been folded into a little book.
Yeah, so a lot of it's very sort of hands-on learning and a way to sort of have more of an experiential understanding of early objects in particular, but sort of many, many objects.